Okay, hi everyone. I guess you guys are all right. Uh, so welcome to today's lesson in computing applications. And we're going to discuss on Microsoft Access databases. Okay, so let's quickly go to my presentation and look at the objectives. So these are the learning objectives. This is what you need to know at the end of our lesson, or at the end of this unit, which is database of Microsoft Access. So upon the completion of this unit, students should be able to, you should be able to define some terminologies that are associated with Microsoft Access, or which is associated with MS Access databases. You should be in a position to define what are the database elements and the relationships, okay? And design a database following basic design principles, okay? So this one, we are also going to design a database. So we look at some of the terminologies that are associated with database of Microsoft Access, and we define some elements and relationships in connection with the databases of Microsoft Access. And then the third point here, sorry, please, we're going to look at, we're going to design a database, okay? We are going to use Microsoft Access 2016. So in this lesson as well, we're going to create tables. We are going to create forms. We are going to create queries and reports. We are also going to define data types for these table fields, right? And then we're going to manage our data in our database. And then lastly, we are going to look at how to sort and filter records in our database. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So these are some of the terminology. When you're talking about a database, there is no way you can not hear one of the following terminology. So it's very, very important that we need to, or we understand what do we mean by the following terminologies. They are not only limited to this. We've got a number of them, but but for this course of this lesson, we are only going to focus on these ones. So the first one is data. So what is data? So we know that data is raw facts. It's defined as known facts that can be processed to have implicit meaning. For example, a student records containing their personal details, their subject and programs enrolled in. So these are all data. So data is just anything that has no meaning. It has no meaning. Data has no meaning. Okay. But the moment, as we said, things like what? Student records and subjects, programs that these students are enrolled in. Okay. So these things have got no meaning to you until you put meaning into them, then they become information. Okay. But when you just collect student records, student names, because that you're doing the cell phone numbers, the email address, street names, and so forth and so on. So these are just data because these things have got no meaning to you. Okay. And then this is some of the information data that we collect, like if a student is applying, or we are keeping records of a student in our database. So we collect this data. Okay. The collection time is this data has got no meaning. This information has no meaning. At the beginning, when you're collecting this data, there's no meaning into it. But now when you collect, when you put this, when you record this, it becomes information, because at the end of the day you have a table that contains information regarding a student. Okay, so that's basically what data is. It's anything that has got no meaning, like we say student records, personal details, subjects that the students are enrolled in, and so forth and so on. Okay, and also the second term is database. So what is a database? So database, you say it represents some real world aspects. It is logical, coherent collection. Logically, not physically, guys. Logically coherent collection of data with some inherent meaning. Okay? And it's designed, built, and populated with data for specific purposes. Okay? So basically what you're saying, it's a collection of data, logically collection of data that have got specific meaning. They are also designed, database is designed and it's built, and it's also populated with specific data, with data for a specific purpose. Okay, so you create a database, and then in this database you create it for a purpose. Okay, maybe you're keeping students' records, or maybe F&B storing details about its customers. So each and every organization create a database for in purpose. Okay. Right, then we go to the next one, which is what? The DBMS, Database Management System. So the DBMS, it's a collection of programs that enables users to create and maintain database. Okay, now we say a database are created. Okay? But now what do you use to create this database? You need certain application, you need certain programs that you can use to create the database, and we refer to them as DBMS, or Database Management System. So all the collection, this collection of programs that enable you as a user to create and maintain database, they are called what they are called DBMS. Okay, and we've got a few of them, a number of them actually out there that you can use. So we've got things like MySQL. MySQL is a DBMS. We have got Oracle. Oracle is also DBMS. We've got SQL Server, and we've got Microsoft Access. So these are all different types of DBMS, or the different programs that you can use to create a database. But for this course, we are going to focus on, or we're going to use MS Access. That is the program, the application that we're going to use to create our database. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Okay, now getting started. So as we said, we define these certain terminologies that are associated with MSX or MS Access, and so now moving on to the next point, which is now defining the database elements and the relationships. Okay, so this is now the stage where you'll be starting off with the creation of database. Okay, so Microsoft Access, as I said, that this is the application that you're going to use to create database. Okay, so starting off, we have got what you call the Microsoft Office Backstage view. So this page allows you to get information about the current database, to create a new database, open existing database, save as, and print, and close even to close the database. So this is just a view. It's just a view that allows you to do all this. Okay, create database, open database, and save a database, or even to print. So it allows this view, the backstage view, allows you to do all this. Okay, so now moving on to the backstage view. This is the backstage view. So That is our backstage view. Right, and it comprises of many commands that you can use to adjust, maintain, and share your database. So this view, it just allows you to do all this. I mean, it allows you, it comprises of many commands that allows you to do certain things. Right, and then it have got all these commands, backstage view commands. So you've got home tab, create, we have got external data and database tools. Okay, so you find this in the database, I mean, in the backstage view. Moving on. Okay, good. Now this is the point where we now it's just the creation. You are one of the. This is one of the steps as to when you're creating a database. Okay. Moving on, let's look at what we call database objects. Okay. So the database is made up of objects. Okay. Now, if we just go back to our first slide here, we refer to these all as objects. Okay. Tables, because the database contains tables. It contains, you can have forms within the database. You can create forms, you can create queries, you can create reports. So we refer to these all as database objects. Tables, forms, queries, and reports, they are referred to as database objects. Okay, now the first one is a table. So we say the table is it's a collection of information arranged in rows and columns. As you guys, you know what a table is. I don't need to explain further what a table is. So a table, a database contains a table, and the table is it consists of, or it's arranged in rows and columns. Okay, so you can create a table within a database. So the most important thing here is that a database is made up of, there's no way you can have a database without first creating tables. So a database is made up of tables. So that is like a foundation. And then everything can be built out of it. Okay, because you're gonna have a form or a report or a query. You can't create a query or a report or a form from a database without first having a table. So the table is the core, the foundation of every database or any other object. So all the other objects are built on the table, onto the table. I mean, from the table. Okay. So for you to get to create a form or a report or a query, first you need to have a table in the database. Okay. Okay. So these are the different types of. I mean, this is different objects within the database. So you've got a table, queries, forms, reports, and so forth and so on. So we'll be only looking at the first four. Okay, reports, forms, queries, and tables. So queries, what are the queries? So the queries select records from one or more tables in a database so they can be viewed, analyzed, and sorted on a common database. Okay, so a query is like your query, you're looking for certain information. In, let's say, a database has got two tables, and then you need we need certain information from both from these two tables. Okay, so you only query for specific information. You only retrieve or extract that certain information from the table. So you only query, and then those information or records will be retrieved to you. Okay. It also can also perform calculations, and the query will be updated whenever the original table is updated. Okay, so meaning when you have a query, created a query from a certain table in a database. Let's say if you update the table, then the query will be also updated. Okay, whatever change you make to a table, it also changes the query that you created from that table. Okay, moving on. Okay, so this is just the creation of a query. As I said, the practical part, we'll do it in the next session, but I just want us to run through the theory before we do the practical. Okay, so this is so that was more about the query. Now let's go to a form, because we said these are some of the database objects that can be created from the table, from the database. So we say the form is an interface that is used to display and edit data. It allows the user to view records at one at a time. Okay, so I think these ones are going to be actually explained further when we'll be doing a practical, and then you'll see how to create a form. Okay, so with a form, it allows you to view the records, because remember within the database, it has got records. The database has got records. Now these records, if you want to view them like one at a time, then you can just have a form, you can put them in the format of a form, you can create a form, and then it allows you to view them one at a time. Okay, let's move on. So this is just a view of a form. How does it looks like when you create it? So this is actually the view of data using a form. Okay, then a report. The next object is a report. So we say the report, it's an output of data arranged in order you specify. So in the report, you specify the order in which you arranged your data. Okay. You can also perform calculation. Reports can be used to print data. So this is one of the objects as well that can be, or that makes up the data, the report. And then these are the different steps that you can use, that can go through to create a database. Okay, so let's just end here for this lesson, and then we are going to continue to the next one where we are going to create our first database. Okay, so see you soon.